attendees will be joining us. Welcome, early birds. Glad to see that you're here. Going to be putting a couple of things in the chat here for our attendees, and then I'll go back to the full screen. Welcome to Bringing AI to Life in the Nonprofit Finance Office. We're about 2 minutes away from starting, but we wanted to welcome you, and we're glad you're here. All right, it is 12 noon in the Central Time Zone, and before I introduce our speaker, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you are looking to receive CPE credit, NASBA requires you to remain for the entire session, and you must answer all of the poll questions. So I will give everyone plenty of time to answer the poll questions, but keep in mind that that is part of the requirement. So I am thrilled today. Katie McCloskey is our speaker, and she is a Texas native and a CPA with 25 years of experience in helping nonprofits and healthcare organizations. And after some quick math, I think I've known Katie for all of those years. She helps nonprofits with compliance, transparency, and insights. And the way they achieve these goals is by leveraging best practices in the use of financial systems. Right now, Katie is the product management director for Sage Intacct. So within Sage Intacct Cloud Financials, things like financial statement production or reconciliations, budget planning, dashboards and key metrics, delivery, allocations management, fixed asset stewardship, and more. All of those things have been created by Katie and her team. These are award-winning accomplishments. Sage Intacct is ranked #1 in client or customer satisfaction by G2 Crowd. And I like to just describe G2 Crowd as sort of Yelp for software solutions. So these are, unsolicited customer reviews, and it is #1 among nonprofit solutions on G2 Crowd. And another recognition of just the power and strength of Sage Intacct is that it is the first and only preferred solution of the AI CPA. Now, LBMC Technology Solution, we represent Sage Intacct products to our clients, and LBMC Technology Solutions is among the top 5 Sage Intacct partners globally. Katie and her colleagues are continuing to bring the best and most practical blend of both today's technology, which we're going to be talking about the cutting edge today, as well as the needed, thorough, and complete accounting functionality. LBMC Technologies Solutions is very pleased to be able to have Katie as our speaker today. Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Are you able to see it?
I sure am.
Okay, great. So I will go ahead, and this is your moment of identity verification. And you can see it's me speaking. So I'm really excited that you invited me here today to share a little bit with you. This is a topic that I'm passionate about. I really am excited about the opportunities that AI brings, and really helping us to deliver on our missions in the best way possible, across the nonprofit space, and really augment the work that all of us as finance team members are trying to do. So thank you for having me. So to get us started, we're going to talk a little bit about, first of all, why is it that artificial intelligence, we keep hearing about it, we have all the buzz about it. Why should we, why is it impactful? Why should we care? And then what is it that, NFP finance looks like today, tomorrow, and into the future? And how does that artificial intelligence, aspect play into how we're moving forward? And then there's the big question, should you lead, or should you follow, or be somewhere in between, right? And so I want to just kind of, raise some of those questions, and we'll kind of just talk through it together. So with that, let's jump in a little bit. Why is it that we should all care about artificial intelligence? We keep hearing the buzz, people keep talking about it. What does it mean to us today? So as we know, we've had a tremendous amount of change occurring at a rapid pace. I think the statistic that I heard at one of the AICPA conferences was saying how we had basically hit the fast forward button by 5 to 10 years with technology as a result of, going through the exercise with COVID. We've really changed the way that we live and we work, and the technologies that support that to happen. In addition, we've also had a lot of change in terms of people. People have changed the way that they think about, wanting how they want to spend their time, what types of work is attractive to them, where they want to do that work from, right? We know that working, in a hybrid environment is much more normal for many workers than it was before. We still do have, of course, workers where that's not the case, because the types of organizations that they support require, more closeness and proximity. So there's a lot of change happening here. And one of the big things that we're seeing is that, of course, people aren't where they used to be. And hiring of people is really being impacted. I don't know how many other folks on here are parents of, students that graduated during the COVID era. But I know, one of the things that's happening, right, is that first class and the successive classes, right, there was a change. A lot of people weren't sure, should we go to college? Should we not go to college? Should we stay on track, right? And so there's fewer graduates coming into the accounting profession than there have been in the past. In addition, we've had a lot of people make the decision to retire earlier than maybe originally intended. And so we're seeing, again, a lot of impact in terms of how many people are coming into the profession and how long does it take. Another trend that I know I heard recently cited was that it takes 4 to 6 months to source, an accounting team member, which, I mean, that sounds long, right? But a lot of people are feeling, that impact. And so we're leaning in more than ever to technology advances to try to help make sure that, we're all able to continue to deliver and do our jobs in terms of, providing the insight that's needed, the compliance requirements, all of those things. So again, it's a time where, we have to pay attention to, where can we gain, where maybe we have some of the people aspects, creating challenges. As we all know, insight anywhere is kind of the new normal, right? Our executives are that we're helping to support, and our program managers throughout organizations oftentimes are dispersed, and they're looking for that information that they need, and they're looking for it on demand. In the past, a lot of times we were functioning in the finance area as a historian of the truth. And now more than ever, I think a lot of organizations have really shifted, and especially over the last 10 years, into that look forward advisor. And so there's this opportunity to look to the tool sets that artificial intelligence provides to make sure that you both have the time to invest in that look forward advisor role, as well as to be able to analyze patterns and trends and things that are happening to help make decisions in a better way, right? And really, your role in the finance team is oftentimes to surface the financial truth, within your organization, so that the people that need to make decisions, right, have the insight that they need when they need it. And so it's very important to make sure that you have those tools, right at your fingertips. And it's important to make sure that you have, planned for how you can take advantage of the transformation, right? The additional pieces of insight that you could get. So with that, I think we're at our first polling question, Dawn.
So let me launch the first poll question. And remember, I'll give you plenty of time to answer, but you must answer all of the poll questions if you want to be eligible for CPE credit. So aside from securing funding, which of the following are your biggest future concerns? And you can choose multiple concerns. We've got the war on talent, cybersecurity, having real-time information and reporting to fulfill mission, difficulty measuring impact and outcomes, recruiting quality board members, increased demand for our services, decreased demand for our services, or other. Give you a couple more seconds to answer that. And I'm going to close the poll. Let me share the results. It looks like Katie hit the nail on the head with the war on talent and being able to recruit and retain qualified employees. That is tied with having real-time information and reporting to fulfill mission objectives. So a lot to wrestle with here. All right, I'm going to turn it back to you, Katie.
All right, thanks, Dawn. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about, well, what is artificial intelligence, right? We hear the words, what does that actually mean? So it's actually an umbrella term, right? It's all about rule-based programs that basically it can look for patterns in data. There's robotic process automation, there's machine learning, there's deep learning. There's a lot of discussion these days about chat bots with like ChatGPT and things of that nature, where it's able to analyze very large data sets and interact with you in what almost feels like a human way, right? It is able to synthesize or sift through way more data than you could do individually if you were trying to do it as a research project, right? And deliver back results in new and interesting ways. We also have things like advanced text analytics. So when we think about like documents and text and things of that nature, right? The machines are able to actually analyze in a way that they haven't done before. We also can do things around like demand forecasting by looking for patterns and trends. And that's important, right? When we think about making sure that we have resources in the right places for the right people, to deliver on whatever programs or items that we're trying to make sure that we're delivering. Fraud prevention is another big one. This is top of mind for many organizations. As we all know, cybersecurity and fraudsters are trying more than ever, right? They're saying that social engineering attacks and cybersecurity attacks in general are really up. And making sure that we have the right tools to be smart and help identify where you have risk, or to alert you that there's a potential situation is really important. And so having the power of these things like machine learning as part of your finance systems, which is one of your where you have to do a lot of your safeguarding, can be really important. We also have things like image and video categorization, right, which can be impactful when it comes to doing presentations. We have, real-time translation, which is really powerful as we need to connect, with more global organizations. Again, it depends on what your mission is and what your footprint is. But oftentimes, there's nonprofits that operate, of course, in a global context. And then there's also the concept of thinking about how we interact with others that are nonprofits like us. And oftentimes in our geographies where we operate, there aren't others like us. And so again, being able to operate and share and find information in a global context can be really important. Text to speech is very powerful, both in terms of speed to entry, as well as in helping overcome where there could be barriers such as a disability or access to keyboards and things of that nature. It can be very powerful to be able to do more with text to speech type technologies. And then also transcription, right? It makes it much more easy after the fact to keyword search and find or extract data if you're able to keep your notes in a electronic format, and transcription really makes that much more possible. So artificial intelligence, right? It's all around us. There's lots of different ways that it manifests itself. So some people call, AI, you talk about it as artificial intelligence. And I think that the intention of this quote and the reason I like it is it really just, it points out that, artificial intelligence is really a way to augment our human intelligence, right? How we are able to empower ourselves, to find the information we need to drive decisions based on, the factors that, we can make available in new and different ways. And it really helps us to guide within our organizations in ways that maybe weren't possible in the past because we didn't have the human power to do as much analysis or to get at some of the data that we can now that we have artificial intelligence at the table to help us. All right, so with that, we've arrived at polling question 2.
Excellent. So, poll question number 2. Thinking about your organization, what is the organization's attitude towards leveraging technology? Do they have a position of we simply must in order to remain relevant and operational? Are you in a situation where you can't convince leadership that an investment in technology is needed? Perhaps you're open to it as long as there isn't a cost. I'm not convinced technology is worth the investment, or we've already begun investing, or you really don't know the attitude of your organization towards cutting edge technology. Sometimes we understand that it's important, but it's hard to convince others that it's important. I'll give it a few more seconds to make sure everybody has responded. And I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So the feeling among our audience is that we simply must invest in technology to remain relevant and operational. And the second most popular response is we're open to it as long as there isn't a cost. And that could be, there are some things that you could probably employ, but in terms of really safeguarding your organization or really getting the benefit, that might only get you so far. And then there are a few who are just not convinced about technology being worth the investment. So thank you for answering so candidly.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Nonprofit Finance Office and how AI today, tomorrow, and the future will be impacted. So we've been talking about artificial intelligence and how it's really changing our world. And I think if you think about technology and how it is really involved to empower us, we now have enough scalability to capture every transaction in real time with enough detail to actually look at the transaction from all of the different data dimensions that are important. So we're talking about, being able to do things like analyze our expenses against the project delivery, being able to look at departmental management, being able to tell how much revenue has come in from our different grants, how much of that we've been able to consume, right, in real time, right? That's exciting that we've gotten to that space. We've also gotten to a place where we can have more confidence in that data as we think about real time, right? Things like approvals and electronic workflows upfront help us to be able to trust that data sooner than we may have in the past. We've also gotten to a place where we now have effortless economical elasticity for uneven processing requirements. So what that really means is, in the past, you had, on-premise systems and you had to worry about, keeping everything up and running, and you would have labor-intensive processes that could run for longer periods of time. Now, a lot of the technology that you work with from a back-end perspective is in that multi-tenancy cloud, and we're able to make sure that we can deliver, the run times, up times, processing speeds, where everything is, when it comes to doing things like performing allocations or performing your close or those types of things, that they go much faster than they have in the past. Imports are available to you within seconds, right? Screens are responsive as you're recording transactions, right? All of those types of things. And you can have lots of things going on at once, right? You could have your system being updated in real time from a connected system, while at the same time you have teams of accountants recording transactions, running reports, and all of those things take place in a way that it doesn't impact performance, right? Everybody is able to do their job without lags or delays, and that's exciting. It wasn't always that way, as Dawn and I both can attest to from having been in this industry for a long time. I'm sure many of you have experiences of your own where you could share along that lines. We also are in a place now where we have natural language processing, right? We weren't always able to interact and ask questions or find information in a way that was as intuitive as it is today. And that's an exciting change. And this is one of the areas where I think we're going to see a lot of evolution to come, when it comes to how you interact with, systems and finding out, where you need help or guidance. They're becoming much friendlier. It's a very different day than when you would break out your manual and look things up, and we're evolving, with being able to do, tagging and keyword searches, and even anticipating the questions that come up in ways that are different, because we're able to use big data and see where lots of people are, clicking, help on a particular topic and search, so we can proactively surface that topic based on what you're looking at. So we're in a very different world than we've been in the past. We've also gotten to a place where now we have enough computing power to automate all of our workflows. That's really exciting, right? To be able to move into a completely paperless space and to make sure that we have, the ability to connect with the people that need to sign off and approve in ways that we haven't before. Mobile technology or mobile experience, right, being really baked into the thinking about how do we deliver insights? How do we make sure that, folks that need to review and approve can do it on the go, in ways that are different than they have in the past, right? And we now have the computing power and the accessibility of devices to make it really possible for all of that to take place. We also have massive data sets now that are available for us to train based on an unconstrained machine learning, which just basically means that it's exciting that we, as we look into technology to help deliver insight to us, it has new and exciting ways to do that that it hasn't in the past. And, we're constantly finding new ways, right, to deliver value, which I think is pretty exciting in terms of how technologies are evolving. So obviously, from an accountant's perspective, we're in the business of delivering trust, right? It's all about making sure that people can trust their financial data and rely upon it as they're making good decisions within their organizations. It is obviously tantamount that we have accuracy, that we have consistency, that we're ensuring that we have good stewardship, and that we're providing transparency. And obviously we do that in different areas of, in terms of how we track our financial data, how we share our financial data. If you think about, again, those solid electronic workflows at the beginning of many of the, report in cycles. So when we think about things like inbounding any type of expense, whether it's something that is an employee expense or if it's a thing that is, like an AP invoice, right? If you have those solid electronic workflows up front, right, that's what helps make sure that you get the coding right and that people can rely on that data more in a real-time context because you recorded it properly from the get-go. We want to make sure that we have consistency in terms of treatment over time, and we look, help ensure that that's something that we deliver in. Stewardship is another item. Again, we're making sure that you have the right points of review and approvals in place is really key, and making sure that your policies are also accessible and aligned within the same system of record where you're doing these decisions, right? Can really be helpful to help make sure that you're empowering your employees and that they can get things done as quickly as possible. And of course, transparency is all about providing insight all along the journey of making decisions, whether it's during those workflows that we talked about up front. Maybe you want to know something like, I'm making a decision about, whether to allow for this spend. What is this going to do in terms of budget? Or what is this going to do in terms of, some other impact? Making sure that you have visibility into that data as you're making those decisions is important. And then also monitoring, right? And having those conversations as you need to recalibrate perhaps against plan for the year based on how things are actually going, right? Having that transparency and having that access is really important to make sure that you can foster trust in the financials and to being a good partner, obviously, throughout your organizations. So the exciting thing is that, AI really gives a lot of opportunities to augment these processes and allow you to invest and take advantage of, the technology aspects to bring down the direct cost. So if we think about things like optical character recognition, so I'm going to say kind of one of our first points when we think about how we transact and are able to really, bring down the amount of effort from our team members that we have. If you can ingest your transactions in, and we're seeing this right across the boards. I think a lot of people have seen AP automation really become much more of the norm across the industry. And this, when we talk about AP automation, right, this is the electronic inbounding of AP invoices, whether that's through being emailed in the invoices, or if it is, being, read into the system through optical character recognition. And I think we're on the cusp of actually some evolution here where we are going to get into a place where, EDI becomes much more normal, right? We're seeing big investments in data networks, so that, you can actually have direct communication electronically around invoices and payments and things of that nature. So that's kind of exciting and certainly coming. Expense receipt is another area where optical character recognition has become much more of the norm, where people want to be able to, take a snapshot of that receipt and have it actually ingested and then ready for you to add those additional details to help justify, those expenses. Resumes is another example that I've seen, in general, thinking about, how you are able to ingest information that you're making decisions upon, right? I think there's some exciting opportunities on the horizon around things like, for example, with grant applications and things of that nature, where, again, optical character recognition can come into play and help just make it a faster process, right, to get to, decision making sooner. Electronic inbounding in general, as we were just talking about, right? In terms of being able to bring in data, whether it's, direct communication between vendors and customers, whether it's direct communications with, say, like your bank fees. That's a pretty exciting one that I know has been, at least in my experience, one of the probably top of mind items with the nonprofits that we work with is trying to make sure that when it comes to, reconciling data, things like that, that there's as much automation as possible. The old days of the tick and tie, right, are really coming to an end, which is exciting, right, to have as much automation as possible there. And AI really augments this because it has the opportunity to help suggest, right, where things match and allow you to really focus your energies instead on the exceptions. This comes into play, obviously, with the classic bank reconciliation. It also comes into play when you think about reconciling your credit card charges and things of that nature. Another area that we might want to think about as well is really where predictive coding comes into play. And predictive coding is where, as we ingest these documents, whether it's AP invoices, expense receipts, or other types of transactions, it's where the system can, look at patterns of activity and suggest how the coding should take place. Many of us have used defaulting for years, and this is really kind of the next step where it can get smarter in, helping identify how things should be coded, so it makes it go much faster. In the accounting department, we get pretty used to going fast at this. It's particularly powerful when we think about how predictive coding can help augment when the people that are submitting the expenses or charges, maybe they're not in finance and not as experienced. And so it can really speed up the process if we can look into our data sets for how these charges have typically been coded and make those suggestions so that we have more accuracy. Optimizing around spend is another area where we're seeing AI, really come into the picture. A lot of the systems that are out there are starting to get into a place where, as you have, requisitions and purchase decisions, not only can they help you do things like make sure that, you're checking against your budget, but that you're also looking out into the world and getting the best purchase prices and things of that nature, because we all know that you want to make your dollars go as far as possible. And so it's kind of exciting when you can see some more around the trend data with what's happening, how are others typically spending on these items and things of that nature. And that could come directly in the purchase decision itself. And it also can come through the analysis after, right? We're going to talk in just a few minutes more around the reporting aspects, but looking for those outliers and trends in terms of how the spend is occurring can be pretty important. Anomaly detection is another item that is pretty exciting, right? This has to do with really trying to help make sure that you're cutting down on, the need to make corrections, and that you're spending the time to ask the questions when there are things that occur that are out of the ordinary, to make sure that you understand why and that it's justified, right? So when we think about anomaly detection, there's some different ways that can come in. So I put it here in the transacting side of the house, because you may want to have that anomaly detection as you're actually recording in transactions. As we've been I've mentioned this several times, but I will say it again. The more accurate that you can be as transactions are recorded up front, the greater confidence you can have sooner in the insights, that you can rely upon. In days past, it was very common for you to get, the reporting information from, after month end close for last month, and then you used that as your benchmark to measure decisions that you were making. We are very much shifting or have shifted in many organizations into that real-time zone. And the only way that that's really possible is to actually have that confidence sooner. And so to do that, machine learning can really help, build that confidence, because it can essentially grade or look back at the patterns of activity that you have had within your organization in the past. And it can help identify where something is different than in the past and may require more scrutiny. Sage has invested very heavily in this path, for example, with journal entries. We've had conversations with customers to identify how often is it that you're having to make journal entry corrections and why? And one of the things that we found is that, there was actually, things that were getting miscoded or things of that nature, especially when it comes to, transactions that you don't do as frequently. You have the most opportunity there. And so if instead we can look at, your journal entry past and where you may have handled or done that, we can help surface anomalies, so that, again, you put that extra scrutiny up front and making sure that you get the accounting right. AP invoices, purchasing transaction, expense entries, right? These are all areas where you want to help make sure that you're accurate sooner than later. And you have that opportunity with workflows and with machine learning, right, to really add that extra layer of scrutiny. Account reconciliations is another area that, and you may think of this one more like in the reporting vein, but I wanted to put it here with anomaly detection, because a lot of times, you know, as you get to the routine cycle of account reconciliation, what you're really doing is trying to make sure, right, that everything is handled and tied out. And we're seeing a lot of our, nonprofits really invest in speeding this process, because this is one of the most time consuming and onerous processes. And if you can really cut that down, then again, you can get to the close in a much faster process. And again, you can have that confidence that you can rely on the data sooner. One of the tool sets that was talked about or mentioned quite a few times was Power Automate. People are looking to say, well, can I build account reconciliation paths through Power Automate to make that process go faster? And while you certainly can do things like that, you don't have to start from ground zero. There's actually a lot of tools that are already out there that specialize in making sure account reconciliations go faster. Through Sage, we have some native capabilities to help just with the ticking and tying and making sure you're getting your account reconciliations. But you can also tie in with a number of our partners where they actually go a step further than that, right? And helping, again, proactively help you drive the close process and help make sure that the anomalies that exist are getting the attention that they need sooner. So it's definitely something that's exciting. Again, as you think about how AI and machine learning can come into play, I think this is definitely an area where you want to have a strategy, of how you're going to make sure that you're keeping your close as streamlined as possible, because this is an area that, again, I think a lot of organizations can stand to really save. Fraud detection, as we talked about, is another kind of key area where, AI and business systems can really help make sure that you have the right security levels in place. It's obviously you want to make sure that you have the right cybersecurity and things of that nature as you're evaluating systems. But it's more than that. Now we're in a place where we also can really need to protect more than ever against that social engineering attack. And so it's being able to think about having processes in place that can do things like, you want to maybe do things like double check that, bank accounts that are in your vendor side, right, ensure that they're different from the employee side, or things of that nature, right? Again, there's a lot of rules and controls that can be put in place to help ensure that you don't have fraud detection. Workflows, again, are very important in this process, and making sure that you have that strong audit trail to help protect you, also key. Pervasive audit is another area where we're seeing the industry really shift. We fully expect it to become normal that all transactions, are essentially going through the audit instead of the selective, sampling that we've seen in the past. If you pay attention to, the business systems that our audit firms are using, it's becoming, much more normal to not simply have the same sampling. That said, we're also in a space where, if that's the case, right, we need to make sure that we're very clear on what our policies and procedures are, that all transactions can stand up to that scrutiny level. And we certainly are in a place that, you're going to want to rely on, your system controls more than ever to do that, making sure that it's not just about, obviously you have to have human checks, but as much of this as you can digitize and make electronic, it's going to make your audits go faster, and it's going to make that internal control framework stronger, because it is realistic, right, to need to check and make sure that each transaction is getting scrutinized and analyzed that way in the future. Now, I said we would also talk more a little bit about the insight trends. So when it comes to reporting and monitoring, like forecasting and thinking about like your financial performance, all of those types of things, it's pretty exciting what AI can put at the table, or machine learning can put at the table around how you're able to do more with trending and analyzing a lot faster than you could perhaps do on your own. Now there's some classic tools, that are coming in to make this more possible than ever. But I think kind of a fun example that you might want to think about is, when we think about ChatGPT and how can it be helpful to us. So ChatGPT, everybody talks about, how it's really transforming the world and it's transforming things like, how you might go about researching a topic. And one of the most practical applications I think that there is for this is when you think about things like, where in the past, maybe you had a blocker, like you wanted to do a particular style of analysis in Excel. And you're trying to figure out how to do it. So you're, maybe you're using your Google search or using help to try to figure out how would I achieve that. ChatGPT is a pretty interesting tool because you can have that more natural language search to explain what it is that you want to do, and it can help get you those answers faster. So again, it can help you with things like Excel to get more, boost your ability to do analytics and trending and things like that, right? A lot of us accountants are, masters with Excel. And so it's kind of an exciting or fun way to augment that. Now, all of that said, Excel is kind of like our, it is a great tool set. It is our friend, but it can also be an enemy, right? When you think about putting your trust and relying on numbers and data, Excel is not always the best place for that because things can easily be changed. It doesn't have that audit trail where you can, necessarily always drill back to the source of truth with the refresh confidence and all of those things, right? And so a lot of us are shifting and trying to make sure that we're doing our analysis and our analytics actually out of the system of record, right? The actual finance system. And this is where it can get kind of exciting when we have tool sets that are coming in, like BI system type capabilities that are now actually options within our finance systems directly. So for example, we have a visual analyzer tool that can help you do things around like predictive trending and outlier analysis. So not only does it allow you to surface, how have we been trending, but where does it look like things are going to go based on analyzing the performance past within your specific data set. By the same token, it can surface very easily outliers so that you can spend the time to actually investigate those outliers instead of spending the whole time just looking at the overall picture and not worrying as much about the outliers. You can now dig in. You can also do things like set, materiality thresholds in your analysis so that, you're not focused in on that one penny item, but you're spending the time wisely in terms of on those outliers where you want to pay attention and where it is a material amount. So that certainly is something that you want to, kind of pay attention to. Along the same lines, when we're talking about, how ChatGPT might be useful or helpful, is when you think about, again, using tool sets that maybe are more complex, that, you might have had to have a special skill set to use in the past. So things like where, you need to be able to, maybe write a query in a way that it has more SQL-like aspects. Again, ChatGPT can often help you come up with the syntax faster. That really opens up the path for transformation in a way that's different than what we've had before. It makes it more accessible for somebody that maybe is more accountant-minded to get at the data that they need without having to have that, necessarily that sophistication level that perhaps they had to have in the past. And so this can be impactful when we think about some of the advanced tool sets for reporting. So for example, we have an advanced report writer, and it does allow you to get more complex in how you do your filters and your searches. And so, this might be a way to help that process go faster. That said, you don't have to go down that trail, but it kind of just opens the opportunity if you want to. Another area that I think is going to be very impactful in this way is as we think about, our technology like platform capabilities. So again, a lot of the modern finance systems are actually platforms, and they allow you to search and to build integrations and feed data like with APIs. Again, the actual using of that API can be something that can be, feel more like you're programming than accounting. And so again, ChatGPT offers the opportunity for you to leverage more of that technology because it exists, it's out there. A lot of it is open source. So like with Sage Intacct, our APIs are open source. And so it can help suggest, what would be the syntax that would be used? How would you write that? And so it opens the gate again for accountants to do more than they have necessarily in the past, which is kind of exciting. And we're really, curious to see how that goes. Transaction metrics is another area that can be very interesting. As we work in a more dispersed fashion and we think about, how much time does it take to do actual tasks, we have more opportunities to kind of analyze around how much is actually being done, how much work is being accomplished. As we kind of think about, as we project manage, we have more insight through big data and at what's actually happening than just, you don't have to rely as much on just what our impressions are, but also what the data backs up is actually happening, which is kind of exciting. In terms of best practices and advisory, I think this is another area that is growing, where can be more guided response surfaced to conditions. When we think about providing information out to folks like board members, the finance committee, key donors, right? There's different levels of, financial acumen is probably the best way to think about it. I'm sure many of you that have worked with your board think along those lines. And so it can be very helpful for you not only to provide, the financial data, but also some context and also some suggestions about, what they might do or how they might consider interpreting that data. Again, AI, machine learning, through some of these different types of analysis that you can provide, again, builds a nice foundation to be able to help guide people in terms of what to do with the data that they're seeing, instead of just, here's the data, now you figure it out. Same thing, right? Even as you're working like within your organization with your different department heads and as they make decisions, or your project leaders, as you surface that financial data, you have an opportunity to make sure that they have some guidance around, what are the typical types of things that they might want to do with that data. And that's where you can really, again, help push and transform within your organization. So again, we're seeing that the trend, they're estimating that, the amount of strategy time that's going to be necessary is really shifting. We're moving out of the zone of as much on the transaction processing into more of the, we still have to make sure transactions are accurate, but we can do a lot more in automated ways, and we can manage exceptions in a way that is different than we have in the past. And again, we're being asked to be more of that financial partner within the business and to help our leaders, right, understand, the data they need, right? I think another one of the quips that I picked up that was going around this year at the AICPA nonprofit conference was the CFO no, right? Like a lot of folks are trying to shift the perception in that it's not, no, you can't spend that money. It's, let me help you to know what the situation is so that good decisions can be made, right? So it's a play on the words of how you spell no. But I think that in order to make that transition, right, we have to make sure that we have the right strategy employed, both from a technology perspective, and then also giving ourselves the right amount of time to actually help people be educated about, what it is that they're seeing and how you can help guide them in what to do about it. So with that, we are now at polling question number 3.
All right. Thank you, Katie. All right, let me launch polling question number 3. When it comes to your financial management and accounting software, which of the following functionality is a priority in your organization? So we've got the ability to automate financial reporting, the ability to integrate with other systems, the ability to manage multiple funds through fund accounting, automate outcome metrics reporting, always important, automated consolidation of multiple entities, automated purchasing and spend control, or other. I'll give you a few seconds to answer. And got a few more in, last chance, and then I'm going to close down the poll and share the results. So it looks like the number 1 response was the ability to automate financial reporting, integration with other systems, followed by the ability to automate outcome metrics reporting, and then the ability to manage multiple funds, followed by multiple entities. Oh, and that tied with automated purchasing and spend control. So thank you for sharing your opinions here.
All right. So now the big question, right? We've talked a lot about how there's different technologies. They're really coming into our everyday. There's, I stepped through a number of examples, and, the things that we're highlighting here, right? There are lots of tools that are really investing and making these things real. So a lot of it is about making sure that you have a good understanding of the tool sets you own today. And as you make investments in new tool sets for the future, what are their capabilities when it comes to AI and machine learning now? And what is their roadmap, or what is their strategy to ensure that they're, bringing AI and machine learning into the everyday processes, because that's where the market is trending. So obviously humans are very critical to the equation, right? AI is really here to help augment and empower our ability to work. I think that it's just worth noting. Back in 2019, they added to the competency framework for CGMA, this concept of making sure that you understand, how the different technical skills, business skills, people skills, leadership skills, and digital skills come together, right? It's important to make sure that you understand that equation. And, this is, I think, fast forward to where we are today, right? And I think that we're in a place of, it being much more the norm to expect that our systems have, like I said, that roadmap or those existing AI-powered features today, and are making the right investments for the future. And similarly, right, we have to make sure from a people perspective that we're giving ourselves the right amount of time to understand how those business systems are going to augment and shape how we run our organizations from a financial perspective in the future. So we have a nonprofit advisory council comprised of 12 of our nonprofits. And we've been running this council for a number of years. We have rotating members. And this was a learning that, as we've kind of had this conversation with them about how is it that they decide, when to invest in technology. It's really recognizing where there's that fast forward opportunity, and then analyzing the cost benefit, right? Just because it's possible doesn't mean it's something that we should do right now. on the flip side of that, you don't want to wait too long, right? And you don't want to lag behind, because you do want to bring the benefit, and you really want to make the decision not, hey, there's a cost, we just can't, we always live in a culture of thrift, we shouldn't spend money. You want to look at the benefit that would be driven from it, right? And you want to make sure that you look at that whole picture as you make decisions. And again, we're getting into a place where you're a lot more able to do that because you have better insight available. We really must lean into automation now more than ever, because we have a skilled people shortage, right? And again, that's where there's so many opportunities with like we've just talked about, right, in terms of how you actually transact within your organization, how you get insight out to people within your organization, how fast you can close, all of those types of things, right? We have to look closer than ever at how we can be lean and efficient in our processes, not because we want to drive people out, but because we don't have the people. We aren't replacing accountants as fast as we are getting into a space where they're retiring out and some of those things. So really leaning into automation is really important now more than ever. So again, as you think about what your strategy should be, I would encourage you to identify the opportunities where you can use your existing technologies, understand what AI opportunities exist, where machine learning can be real. I know here at Sage, it now is kind of part of the norm, where as we build new features, we investigate or consider how we can use machine learning to help augment processes and to make things go faster. I think you're going to see that is the norm across the industry. And so you want to be able to kind of answer some of those questions and make sure you're actually taking advantage of the features yourself. You want to make sure that you're looking at the landscape of options that are available. Make sure that you know where you can ask those questions. Recognize where you can buy technologies and where it's worth investing in the build, and the difference between those two in terms of effort and time, and what kind of skills your staff members have. And then, I have the rinse and repeat, because it's not just one process, right, that we're trying to solve for, right? There's many processes within your organization that are complex. And so, there will continue to be opportunities to innovate. There will continue to be opportunities to invest. And so you want to make sure that you know how you can take advantage of some of those new capabilities. And then you look within the next process, right, about where you can make more efficiency gains. So with that, let's get to polling question number 4.
Great. This is our last polling question. And we simply wanted to ask which accounting software is currently in use at your organization. Abila MIP, AccuFund, Nonprofit Plus, Acumatica, Aplos, Blackbaud Financial Edge, Cyma, NetSuite, QuickBooks, my personal favorite, Sage Intacct, or other. All right, couple more seconds. I'm going to end the poll. And it looks like the winner is other. We've got some folks on Sage Intacct, we've got some folks on NetSuite, and we've got some folks on Abila MIP. So again, thank you for sharing.
All right. So nonprofits are, some of the greatest in terms of volunteering feedback, being collaborative within our society, talking to each other. Within our business, it has really made a big difference here at Sage that our nonprofits participate and give feedback regularly, help drive innovation. They've really been key to how we've been able to, make the right investments and make sure that they work for everyone. So I just want to encourage you to collaborate. If you have thoughts about how machine learning or AI can augment, it is always something that, your software publishers are keen to hear your ideas and your thoughts. So lean in. We welcome the opportunities to engage, and, that's how we're able to make things real, right? Lots of ideas from lots of different people. I think, across the industry, nonprofits mean something to us in society, and we always want to try to make the most of every program dollar. And so to do that, right, we really have to work together. So we'll have some contact information here at the end. If you have thoughts, you're welcome to put them in chat, or if you want to reach out individually, encourage that, and certainly welcome the opportunity to hear more on your thoughts. Thank you.
Great. Katie, thank you so much. To all our attendees, thank you for joining us over the lunch hour. I think that there was a lot of value in this presentation, and it's always good to sort of part the curtains and look what's coming down the road. So Katie, thank you for sharing that with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.